Another weekend of chaos with anti-Israel protesters flooding the streets. Over 1,000 people marching in Manhattan, with one agitator getting cheered on while tearing down an American flag. Others facing off with police while smashing on doors outside of Grand Central Station. In Delaware, a group marching outside Biden's home demanding a ceasefire and accusing him of supporting genocide. Let's go to Austin, Texas. A group of protesters on horseback waving Palestinian flags while taking over the streets. Vice President Kamala Harris asked to condemn what we've been seeing. Instead, she said this.
People have a right to protest. We are a democracy, and we should value the voices and listen to the voices. What I hope is that we can engage in conversation and discourse in a way that understands this is not binary, not to mention what it means in our own country in terms of long-standing issues with anti-Semitism, which has been on the rise and even before this happened, Islamophobia and other forms of hate against people just simply based on who they are or how they pray.
A lot of words. So she's not the only Democrat raising eyebrows. Liberal Bill Maher berating Barack Obama over the former president's moral equivalency between Israel and Hamas.
I must say, I am struggling with people's moral equivalency still. I mean, Barack Obama, who has rarely disappointed me, did so this week. The attack was only a month ago. A more savage attack than we've ever seen in reverse. There's a big difference between collateral damage and what Hamas did. When they fire at Israel, it's a war. When Israel fires back, it's a war crime. Little crazy. So, and also, would Hamas do that? Would they give 4-hour pause? No pausing.
Jesse, is there a little bit of daylight between Kamala Harris and Biden? Because Biden has been pretty stalwart in saying Israel has the right to defend itself. And I'm just wondering if there was a little bit of Kamala Harris saying we got to see both sides here.
That might be by design, that daylight, because they're trying to straddle supporting Israel and managing the protest movement so it doesn't hurt them in the election. But I'm with Greg. I might just convert to woke to be able to protest, because if you're a conservative and you go to a school board meeting and raise a ruckus because some transgender kid raped your daughter in a bathroom and the school covered it up, or maybe you were a Tea Party protester who didn't like the Wall Street bailouts, or perhaps you wanted to support election integrity, or maybe you held a sign at Michigan State House that said, "We'd like to go back to work now, Governor." If you do that, you get audited, you get arrested, you get smeared, you probably get put on a no-fly list. Maybe the Southern Poverty Law Center cancels your life. But you're saying if you have a massive movement all over the country for a month where you're desecrating monuments, vandalizing the White House, it's now deadly. You murdered a Jewish guy in Los Angeles. Everyone just wants to be cautious. Let's just give them room to breathe. Let's not do anything. You don't get the full weight of the federal government, the military-industrial complex, the Democrat media-industrial complex, raining down on your movement. You don't get that. And that's not right. And that's not fair. And at this point, the American people, if you're a conservative, it's almost dangerous to get out on the street and protest. But it's not dangerous to get out on the street and hoist the Palestinian flag and tear down the American flag. There's like no arrests.
Right. And Greg, where is the White House urgency about American hostages?
Nowhere. I'm still, look, man, I'm still trying to make heads or tails of what Kamala just said. So she said not binary or non-binary. In applying to this, she might be right in that there's only one way to look at what happened. There isn't two ways. So maybe that's non-binary. It could one binary. If it's non-binary, you could say one direction is non-binary, because the people that say there are both sides are relying on a historical narrative to justify present-day atrocity. It's only about October 7th. We don't care about anything before, because that thing is the worst thing we've seen since 9/11. Maybe if you look at the pictures, it might be worse. So it's a mental state versus the Jewish state. And the only way these anti-Semocrats can embrace a truly immoral, repulsive act is by conjuring up a context to justify or erase or deny terror. You know, Bill Maher is like a lodestar for the centrist liberal, you know? When your party blinks before a contingent that uses the word "but" after saying Hamas beheaded babies, yeah, but you need to run screaming from that party. You cannot march metaphorically or literally alongside genocidal deniers. This is not part of the big picture. The only picture is from October 7th. It goes back to this thing. You have a delusional generation of young people out there, so you have to examine how we lost these people. What happened? What happened? So education used to be a social issue, but now it's a security issue. You should start worrying a little bit. What are they telling them, right? There's anti-West propaganda now being taught in schools, and maybe it's time to rethink how we look at education. It's not a social thing anymore. It's a security thing. This is now about the future of our country. What do we do?
Judge, Jewish people are 2.6% of the U.S. population, yet suffer 60% of hate crimes. Their hate crimes against Jewish Americans are up 400% since October 7th. And the response from the White House was a national strategy on Islamophobia.
Yeah. The amazing part of it is that, and I think that Jesse is right, I think that this administration is trying to straddle both issues. And I don't understand it because I think I mentioned last week that the Arab American vote nationwide is like 1%. So, this whole idea that, we have to, maybe we need a two-state solution. And with Kamala says, I hope we can have a conversation and discourse. None of these people who are marching and protesting want a conversation and discourse. When they start, chanting, settlers, go back home, Palestine is ours alone, that's not a conversation. That's not a two-state solution. Or we don't want a Jewish state. We just want back 48, which is when Israel became a nation state. And from the river to the sea. I mean, everybody knows that's for the elimination of Israel. And, the statement that someone made, when they attack Israel, it's war. But when Israel defends herself pursuant to the laws of war, it's a war crime. And this is something that has repeated itself throughout history. And now America is stuck with a group of people, not just a group of people, an incredible chaos, a mob of people who were standing up for Palestine when Palestine was given the ability to take over the Gaza, and they elected Hamas. And this is one of the consequences. And Israel waited weeks before they started the assault to let them get out. But I think that using a transgender term, Greg, I didn't understand it either. When she said non-binary, not binary. Yeah. The truth is we've got American hostages over there. We're in the middle of a war. You take a side in a war. You can't straddle.
Jessica, tomorrow there is a anti-Semitism march in DC. Pro-Israel march in Washington, D.C. I expect it's going to get a large turnout.
And counter.
Imagine if Biden or Kamala Harris actually went to that.
Wow.
I think it would be great. I have a lot of friends that are going to.
That's probably not happening.
Well, I don't think that that's fair. I mean, as you said in your opener, asking if there's daylight between Biden and Kamala on this, I happen to think that both of them have been very, very clear about where the U.S. stands on this. Joe Biden has been more pro-Israel than Israelis expected, more than Bibi Netanyahu expected, more than other world leaders who have followed him into this, saying you unequivocally get our support for everything that you need. I'd love it if they showed up. I don't know if that's on the docket, but either way, I expect a wonderful turnout there, as it should be. But what Kamala Harris is talking about, and she said not binary, first of all, in terms of this isn't a black and white issue. Everyone who is marching with the Palestinian flag or with these people is not necessarily pro-Hamas. Some of them are actually out there saying, we need to free Palestine. I have issues with the occupation, what goes on or what they perceive as the occupation in the West Bank. Now, do I think it's the right time for that? Absolutely not, because this is all about, as Greg said, what happened on October 7th. There was a ceasefire that day, and it was violated by one group of terrorists that did this. But 388% spike in anti-Semitic hate crimes, 182% spike in Islamophobic hate crimes. That is also existing within our borders. She is the vice president for all Americans. And I get that people want to score political points about it, but I don't know how people who are supportive of Israel and want to make sure that they can do whatever they need to root out Hamas and to avenge the deaths, the 1,400 deaths, and get those hostages back, could complain about this administration. And politics is a binary choice. And we saw that on election night, right? That there were Democrats and Republicans on the ballot and people picked Democrats. And I'm listening to the front runner on the other side talk. And Donald Trump is not only, it's 7 times he's now confused Biden and Obama, which should put him in the mental acuity outhouse there, right? He can't find his pants, at least like Biden. But this is what the man tweets out.
What does this have to do, though?
Because you're talking about the leadership that we're seeing, and then
we're talking about Kamala and Joe.
She's the right, and I'm saying that all of this for people is contextualized in light of elections, and what is on the other side of this matters to people. That's how there are lots of Jews, right, who can't make a decision.
Jessica, I don't. When I see those marches, I don't see what you see, and I'm surprised you look at it this way because those people don't like you. Have I wavered one bit ever in anything I've said about that? That's not a political statement coming. I'm not saying, oh, you got to do this. I'm not talking about Biden and I'm not talking about Trump. I'm talking about something bigger that is happening in this country that puts your life at risk.
I understand that, and I certainly deeply feel that. But this segment is about Kamala Harris, who is an elected official and who said that.
I mean, but one of the things I wanted to point out is that there is a big march tomorrow for anti-Semitism, and it's going to be great. It's going to be huge.
Positive.
We will cover it here on Fox News where you can see it.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.